And I would say I'm opening now to the first presenter, it's Katrin, for the next topic. Also, all around data, of course. Thank you very much, Katrin.
So, yeah, I think you hear me, that's good. Because I'm really a person who's always talking with her hands. So if I have the clicker in one hand and the microphone in the other hand, there's always the risk that I'm throwing some things around. So, and I don't want that. I'm very happy to talk about what we also really did in Austria when it comes to digitalization of sustainability. Machst du? Thank you very much. And the main question that I want to try to give you an answer on is what data or what can data do actually? And maybe starting a little bit with me and my position, just because it explains a lot why that topic is also important to us. So I'm in charge of the whole topic of sustainability at the Austrian National Tourist Office, and I'm part of our innovation department. That means we are working rather closely together with our tourism research department, data analysis, all that kind of things, to really give answers on sustainable questions that are based on data. So what we really try to implement within our organization is living the green and digital transition at the very same time. So yeah, and that's why today I'm gonna talk to you about how data can actually improve a destination's mobility infrastructure and what we in practice figured out doing a use case, creating a prototype with different regions, and I just want to give you one example. And that's actually in Tyrol. So what you see here on the left side is one of the most famous suspension bridges in Austria. It's at the Zillertal Stausee, so above a lake. It's a very Instagrammable spot. People love going there because what do you see here is the lakes, the peaks, the glaciers in the background. You really have the natural areas. So Instagram is telling you that feeling of solitude. Unfortunately, the right picture shows you the reality that is happening, because as soon as something is put out on Instagram or other channels, people are lining up to take those pictures. And that's not only happening in the Alps, that's also in many other places around the world. Looking at Europe, looking at other continents, that's what we see. So we have overloaded public transportation, we have overcrowded parking spaces, we do have a very critical public perception. And that's of course, talking from a National Tourist Office perspective, a really big issue, because when we think about sustainability, it's not only about what the guests perceive, but also what the local community thinks. Tourism acceptance, resident sentiment, that's buzzwords that really count for us. So having that happening actually means that there are cars parked in second, in third row. Public buses cannot pass anymore, meaning that the whole timetable, time schedule, also for the local population that might want to pick up their kids from school or just doing groceries, living their daily life, is interrupted. And of course, that is a challenge, I would say. And that's also like how we approach the whole use case actually, because of course it's not all the time like that. We do know that. But there is, let's say, a certain perception of over-tourism in the area, and we just wanted to know, is that true? And what can we do against it? So what we did start with is just analyzing different data, looking at guest profiles, who is going there, when, and for what reason. What is the usage behavior when it comes to mobility? How do visitors arrive at that very suspension bridge? How long do they stay? So is it really just like actually for the 5-minute photo, maybe lining up 30 minutes before that, or is that the starting or end point of doing a hiking tour or some other things like that? What can you actually do to control those things. And if you then can measure the impact of different measurements that you set, how can that be done? So it was all the questions at the beginning that we wanted to give answers to. And to be honest, we get no answers without data. Data is the key. Data gives you the answers on questions that you did not even dare to ask because they were not even in your mind. So that's why we, whatever use case we are doing, really say that we start with data to gain insights. And that's also what we do here. Just to give you a short overview on how that actually worked. We do have different data sources. And honestly, data sources are gold. So whoever has the data can earn lots of money with that. Our approach is not to buy data and own data, but actually to keep data sovereignty where it lies, but find solutions together. And we worked here together with different data also from Outeractive. So everybody's showing the Outeractive logo in their presentations, which is very nice. So what are the routes actually that can start also from that very suspension bridge, for example? What is the movement data? How was, for example, the cable car used in the area? We know that from other sources, but we do have weather reports. We have weather forecasts. We learned, for example, that actually 3 days in advance, the weather is told to be good or bad, people are more likely to listen to that than on the weather prognosis on the very same day. So the planning attitude, how that all came together, all those different kind of things. And then we worked together with a partner, in that very case was Upstream Mobility, to build a data ecosystem to find connecting points where those data work together, can we do the analytics and also the visualization, because honestly, in the end, if we show any stakeholder, no matter if it's a region or a cable car provider, just our data connecting points, it's not very visible what we want to do or what we can actually do then as next steps to get the insights. And that's also why I wanted to show you how the visualization kind of looked like. We do see here now how long people were staying. We did see also together with that how long they were actually also staying in the region. So how many days are they having? Is that then done that Instagrammable hotspot on the very beginning of their trip, or in the end? Is it depending on weather data? Is it domestic travelers or not? So working with mobile phone data that tells us, of course, where also people are coming from, at least if it's national or international, to see all that and really getting insights on what can be done. And that's also how we came up with solutions. In that very case, we really talked with the region about if we would change the timetable of the bus infrastructure, having at certain peak times, also day times, more buses and less buses maybe in other times, but then also having different routes approaching from different directions, it would actually work out. And I can tell you that they did change that. So we have now a much better situation. Of course, there are still also visitors going by their own car, and Holger mentioned that as well. The majority of travelers, if we are in the Alpine region in Austria, it's 80% of the visitors coming by car. They also use that, but at least we are now not in 3 rows parking, but only 2 at very peak seasons. And the other big thing is also like communicating the strategy to actually facilitate the situation to your local population, because then you get a further step advanced in resident sentiments. And then the next big step is, of course, not only changing the present, but also the future. If we are talking here about capacity planning for the future, what can be done next summer, for example, or the years after, what can still be implemented, you have much stronger ongoing forecasting models if you can base that on data that is actually available nowadays. And in the end, we just have to say there will always be situations of over-tourism. It does not even have to be an objective perception, but if one person feels that way, we have to take it into account, and that's what we try to solve with data. Is everything already perfect? No, of course not. But there are use cases ongoing, and they actually already inspired other regions in Austria to do the very same thing. Because in the end, and that's the other big point in my job, hopefully, that besides basing your findings on data, the thing that we all have to do is collaborate, learn from each other, and nobody has to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to do it within the Austrian regions, and I also do believe that no country has to do it on him or herself, no matter who is in charge. So talking about solutions, learning from mistakes, because honestly, nobody's perfect, and we were also not perfect when coming up with that use case, but it's once again always the holistic triangle with engaging, explaining, and enlightening. And that's how you can solve big issues as more sustainability within your country, but also the small steps to actually create a better mobility structure based on data within a region. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what I was very happy to talk to you about. So in the aftermath, always reach out to me if you have any questions, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Katrin, very much. Now we